All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
Welcome back. Your dreams were your ticket out. Welcome back to that same old place that you laughed about. Well, the names have all changed since you hung around, but those dreams have remained and they've turned around. Who'd have thought they'd lead ya? Who'd have thought they'd lead ya? Back here where we need ya. Back here where we need ya. Yeah, we tease him a lot, 'cause we got him on the spot. Welcome back.
And welcome back to Hour 2 of tonight's show here in the X Zone with yours truly, Rob McConnell. We're coming to you from our broadcast center and studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada, on the X Zone Broadcast Network and your hometown radio, Classic 1220, streaming at classic1220.ca. And once again, we'd like to welcome our newest affiliate in Midland, Michigan, WVEX 105.3 FM. X Zone Nation, my guest this hour is Marc D'Antonio. And anybody who has watched anything on TV where there needs to be an analysis done of something in the sky, well, you're all familiar with Marc's work. He has a degree in astronomy and is the Mutual UFO Network's chief photo video analyst, host of SkyTour Radio on KGRA, and host and creator and CEO of the popular SkyTour LiveStream with Marc Dantonio, a group of live deep sky telescopes observatories on YouTube where people can go on clear nights to see the universe live in real time in seconds, courtesy of SkyTour LiveStream Remote Observatories and their research telescopes. Marc is also the CEO of FX Models, a model making and visual special effects company specializing in digital and physical models and organic visual effects in the film industry. Marc has an extensive work history in television, discussing and investigating extraterrestrial life, appearing regularly on several networks and television shows, such as History, Discovery, Discovery Plus, Netflix, TLC, and more. Joining us tonight is Marc D'Antonio. And Marc, welcome back to the X Zone. It's been some time.
Wow, Rob, thank you for that introduction. That's very kind. And thank you for having me.
Oh, it's always a pleasure, Marc. I'm a big fan of your work.
Well, thank you, sir.
Marc, how did you get involved in the UFO UAP investigation side?
That's a story, but I'll try to keep it short. But the bottom line is, when I was 9, I had like a missing time event. I was on a school trip. I think it was 3rd grade or so, and we went out to this pond. I remember getting off the bus with my bag lunch. I remember getting back on the bus with my bag lunch. And I asked the kids, when are we going to the pond? And they said, we were there all day, you idiot. And they're slapping me around like kids do. I came home, and my mother said, why didn't you eat your lunch? And I said, I don't know. I was all messed up with the time. And she said, go out and play, and I'll call you for dinner. Okay. So I went out in the empty lot next to the house, and I collapsed. And I started having seizures and went through these convulsions and convulsive episode. They called the ambulance. They transported me to the hospital. And I was whacking my head on the ground, distinctly remember whacking my head on the ground. And the doctor saw the big knot in the front of my head from whacking my head on the ground during these seizures and said, oh, he must have had a convulsion or a concussion. So just take him home and observe. He'll be fine. And so it never happened again. I don't know what the missing time was all about. But that night, literally, when I got back from the hospital, they wouldn't let me sleep right away. So I went outside with my telescope, and I was in the driveway looking up at the stars and thinking, man, these stars look really different to me. I mean, coming from a hospital, having an effect like that, my brain was all scrambled probably. So I looked at the sky and I just started thinking, at age 9, I want to know more about the sky. I want to know more about the stars. And I made the decision there and then that I was going to be an astronomer. And I never changed, Rob. I never wavered. I went into oceanography a little bit for a while, And then I ended up going into astronomy and finished my degree in astronomy. I just had to. And I just felt there had to be more out there than just us. Even at age 9, that's where I was going with this. Isn't that wild? It's crazy.
It is, yeah.
Yeah. So I ended up, joining MUFON at age 11, believe it or not.
Wow.
It was, back then it was called the Midwest UFO Network. It wasn't called Mutual UFO Network. And it was run by a guy named Walter Andrus. And I knew him as a guy with dark hair because he had dark hair when I was 11. And so Walt signed my little field investigator card. And I was a field investigator for MUFON. Wow, that was so cool. So bottom line is, I basically stayed with MUFON since I was 11 years old. And I ended up, doing more investigations. And then in 2008, the director of MUFON, the international director of MUFON, said, "Mark, we'd like you to be our international photo and video chief." I went, "Really? Wow, sure, I'll do that." So I've been the chief photo and video analyst since 2008 now, for all these years. And what's interesting, Rob, is, when people think about doing analysis and video analysis, they think of astronomers as stuffed shirts who are just going to, poo-poo the idea. They think everybody's, going to just look at it like these folks that you see on TV. They're astrophysicists that have the limelight, and they say things like, "Well, I don't know. I don't think there's any aliens here," right? But the fact is, I'm not one of those. I actually have had experiences where I think maybe something did affect me personally, and I think that there's other things out there that may have affected other people. I do not accept everything I see. In fact, people call me a debunker sometimes. But the fact is, no, I feel that I have to be hard on the data, because everyone that follows behind me is going to want to get the best analysis of a video or a photo that they could possibly get. And if the answer comes up with, "Well, you might think it's a UFO, but it could also be this, a mundane thing."
Mm-hmm.
Most people don't want to hear that, Rob. They don't want to hear it's a mundane thing. I get that. But honestly, if you don't present that to them, I'm doing them a disservice, aren't I?
You sure are.
Yeah. So that's kind of what my philosophy is. I'm really hard on the data. I believe that there are alien creatures here. In fact, I've been doing a lecture around the country lately. In fact, I'll be doing it at Contact in the Desert, where I go through the physics at a layperson's level of how they can actually be here. And I don't mean through generation shifts where, it's multiple generations. I don't mean that. I mean through dimensional travel that's actually in the realm of physics that we don't quite have our hands on yet, but is out there. And even overseas at CERN with a Large Hadron Collider, they've actually got a detector they just put up in the Large Hadron Collider called Atlas, and this detector, in part, is looking for the particles that could take us interstellar. They don't know if they exist yet, but they've got the attention of CERN. So what's that tell you?
The truth is out there.
You got it, man.
Yeah. Have you yourself ever had a UFO sighting?
Yeah, I've had. It's kind of weird to say, but science people, that doesn't happen to me, right? So what do you do when it does? A UFO sighting, not truly a identifiable UFO sighting. However, I have had a situation that required me to have a surgical procedure done to remove something that was jammed up in my sinus by a weird creature.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and there's a record of it. And it's a record. The records are in Hartford Hospital in Connecticut. And I don't hide any of this stuff. Yeah. This is all out there, public record. It just doesn't get traction because it relates to that abduction thing that people don't usually want to talk about. But I had something shoved up there over 3 nights. It's a long story, but I'll just give you the last bit. This thing was in the room, and it approached me, and I saw a long gray hand with what looked like think of a Bic pen,
okay,
glowing white with a little point on the end. And that was shoved up into my left nostril. And it hurt like the dickens, man. And I must have fought, because the next thing I know, it was morning. I was laying on my stomach on the pillow, face down into my pillow, and I couldn't breathe. And I couldn't breathe because I was trying to inhale something liquid, and I pushed off, and it was my blood. And I was like, "Whoa, what the heck happened?" And my face felt like I had been punched and kicked. Mm-hmm. My left nostril, nothing was swollen, but it was hurting way up inside. And from that point forward, I couldn't breathe out of my left nostril. And so when you have something that terrifying happen to you, and again, as I said, it happened over 3 nights. Okay, with I guess it's a preparatory or something like that. But over 3 nights, when you have something that terrifying happen, what do? When you wake up in the morning, the first thing you do, you get out of bed and you take a shower and go to work like nothing happened. And that's what I did. I had no idea. You know, when I went to work, I was thinking, well, it's no big deal. And every time I thought that it was a big deal, remembering the events that led up to it, it was sort of pushed out of my mind. Nah, I don't even think. No, nothing to worry about. Right? You've heard these stories before, Rob. You know, when people see things, right? They all of a sudden, you know, they suddenly feel like they just need to kind of distance themselves from it and leave it behind. It wasn't a big deal. So, what do you think of that?
However, over the years, what I've seen, Mark, is because of the work that you and other members at MUFON do, getting the stories out there, investigating, giving the investigation of a UFO or UAP credibility, I think a lot of people have come forward to share their experiences, whether it's an alien abduction, whether it's an alien implant, whether it's a CE1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yes.
And I think that the more work that people like you and other field investigators out there do, the closer that we will be coming to disclosure, because as the evidence piles up, and there's enough evidence in my book to win a case in court based on the preponderance of evidence that UFOs are real. However, in order to satisfy the thirst of a lot of people out there, the evidence has to keep on being gathered. And the more evidence that's being gathered, the more people who are willing to accept that UFOs are real, that the ET presence is here and now, and that people are being abducted by aliens.
You know, I agree with that, Rob. And one of the things that's really important to understand is that the only thing that stands between us and them is their technology.
Yeah.
Okay? And so we have to pierce that veil. And some of this more future physics stuff that I talk about is how we're going to do it. And I was on a nuclear submarine as a not for just for one embark. Okay,
I hate to interrupt you, my friend, but I've got to take my break, so please stand by.
Sure.
Exonation, our guest this hour is Marc D'Antonio. We're talking about everything from astronomy to UFOs and the Mutual UFO Network. And Mark and I will return as we continue here in the X Zone with yours truly, Rob McConnell, and my special guest, Marc D'Antonio, from our broadcast center and studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada, on the X Zone Broadcast Network and your hometown radio, Classic 1220, streaming classic1220.ca. Welcome back. Marc D'Antonio is my special guest this hour. And Mark, what would be the best website for people to visit to get more information about you and what you do?
Well, actually, you know, the place they can go, and we have a nonprofit organization called SkyTour LiveStream, and this is people's free ticket to the universe. We bring people to the universe live in real time, and they can reach us at SkyTourLive.org. and that will take them to our live stream on YouTube, which is called SkyTour LiveStream. It'll take them to a variety of places. They can join us on our Patreon if they want to, and they can see the samples of what they're going to get. We actually, I'm really surprised at how well this has worked over the last few years. I really am. It's sort of exploded, and I never expected it to.
So that's SkyTourLive.com, right?
Or, yeah, we have that. We also have SkyTourLive.org.
Okay. All right, before we went to the break, you were just starting to tell us about being on a nuclear sub.
Yeah, that was, Casey, because of my other business, the visual effects business, it's also a model making business. I do a lot of model work for the Navy. In fact, for a long, long time, I've been doing special projects for them for decades. So as we'll call it a thank you, they said, would you like to go for a trip on a nuclear sub? And I said, well, who's going to say no to that?
Exactly.
Yeah, of course I will. So what people don't realize is that when the sub leaves the port, it's on the surface for much of the trip. When it gets out into the open ocean, like the North Atlantic, then they'll submerge and stuff. So for a long time, you're rocking and rolling on the surface in something with no windows. So being a landlubber and not really a sea person without sea legs, I got really seasick, but I didn't like expel anything. I was just trying not to do that because I was supposed to have dinner with the captain later on, and I just was not going to get sick in the captain's wardroom.
Uh-huh.
So I was really stressed by it. So I went to the person that passed as the doctor on the boat, a kid a lot younger than me, and he gave me a patch on the side of my neck. And I said, well, that's weird. I've never seen that before. And it's because the Navy got the scopolamine patch long before you did. Okay. And I guess I was one of the guinea pigs, so to speak. Well, it started to work, but it kind of made me a little off kilter and tired a little bit. So I sat down in the sonar shack. There's a room, just off to the, if you're facing the front of the boat, just off to the right side, there's 4 consoles for sonar. And the sonar station 1 was active, and the kid was sitting there doing it. But sonar stations 2, 3, 4 were inactive at that moment. So I sat down next to him, and when the boat dove, it feels like you feel right now. Everyone listening, if they're just feeling nothing and there's no movement, that's what it feels like. Every now and then you feel a little shudder through your feet as the boat passes through a different temperature of water, a thermocline as it's called. And if it does that, that's the only indication you're moving. So it's really kind of nice. So I was leaning back, just falling asleep, Rob, just sitting there trying to get my stomach back. And all of a sudden, the kid just to my right on the sonar yells out, con sonar, fast mover. And I jolt awake thinking, oh my gosh, there's a torpedo. I'm going to die out here. Why did I agree to go on this trip? I was literally panicking and a cold sweat immediately. Mm-hmm. And the executive officer just sort of comes around and says to the sonar guy, what do you got? I was like, I'm thinking a little more urgency, buddy. I mean, it's got a torpedo or something. I didn't know, right? But so the kid was facing away from me, looking up at the XO, who was kind of leaning over and looking down at him. And he told him the bearing and the range. And then when the XO said, what about the speed? The kid turned back to the console. I don't know exactly what he did, but then he turned back to the XO and he had his hands out to his sides and said nothing immediately. And he said, several hundred knots, sir. And he had his hands out like, I don't know what to do with this. Now, the thing people have to understand about sonar guys on a boat is they have to be able to classify every single thing, everything from a whale fart to jellyfish mating, okay? They know there's a characteristic sound to all of that, mm-hmm. right? And so they have to be able to classify it. This was completely outside this kid's experience. And so he had his hands out like, I don't know what to do. And the XO, he kind of snickered. And he goes, okay, log it and dog it. And the kid pulled his arms in and said, sir, yes, sir, and went right back to work. Now, I'm a big shot, right, Rob? I'm a big shot. They invited me to go on this ride. Hey, so I can get answers, man, because I'm like a very important guy. I'm a VIP. I think you see where this is going. So I get up and I go up to the XO. XO, sir, I'm very familiar with these fast movers. Is there anything I can help you with? And he says, D'Antonio, right? Sir, yes, sir. Are you having a good trip so far? Sir, yes, sir. Let's keep it that way. Oh, dear God. Yeah. So I went, okay, I'll just wait over here. Now, my seasickness, gone. The adrenaline rush, I mean, it just blew that right out of my system. So now I could not wait to get back because I wanted to research these fast movers. And I tried looking up a few things. I actually, back then, we didn't have the mature internet that we have now. And so I had to struggle to find some details. But I did, 4 years after that, have to do a job for the Joint Chiefs of Staff. So I had to do a project up here in my model shop. And it was one I couldn't talk about, so I had to drive it down myself. So I sat with the chief, one of the chiefs, very, very important guy, a true VIP. And in my mind, I'm saying, don't ask, no, don't ask that question. And the words were already coming out. What can you tell me about the fast mover program? Like, oh, what am I doing? I'm ruining my entire reputation. And he looked at me and he kind of nodded and he goes, I'm sorry, Mark, I can't talk about that program. Whoa. And by telling me nothing, Rob, he told me everything.
Right.
It exists, man. So, and the Navy's job is to observe and report. And the reason is because there's no hope of them catching them. And they've not shown any aggressive tendencies toward our boats at this point, whether surface ships or submarine boats. They haven't shown any kind of aggression. So it's an observe and report regimen right now.
Mark, in your work as the video photo analyst for MUFON, what was your analysis of the Tic Tac?
Oh, actually, I did a white paper on the Tic Tac, the gimbal, and the Go Fast. And in my view, the Tic Tac, as much as people are making out about it, it wasn't conclusive to me in any way. And in fact, by knowing how the AT FLIR pod works on that F-18 Hornet, it tracks. Now, the plane is facing one direction, and then you've got this pod on the left side, or the plane, or the right, and it's looking toward the front, you would think. Well, it actually can turn to the left and to the right to look at the target and track a target. So the plane doesn't have to be facing directly at it. That's what this did. So it was looking at this thing, and then as it moved more out of the range of that sensor, the sensor, the camera recentered looking forward, giving the illusion that it sped off at a high speed, but it was just a camera turning away from it. And so, because you could see in the background of the Tic Tac, you could see other modeling in the sky with video processing that shows the modeling went with it. So it was definitely a camera moving artifact. So it wasn't conclusive to me. And I know that there's things that are here, and I know from Fravers' explanations and Grush's explanations and Graves, I know that there's other stuff out there. I just don't think that was it. And that's probably why it got released.
In your opinion, Mark, why hasn't there been disclosure yet?
That's a good question. When I talk to friends like Richard Dolan, we talk about that. We talk about other things. I talked about disclosure with a lot of people. And I think that we have to look at the big picture. The big picture is the U.S. government has admitted they exist. Have they ever? No. Have they ever had a congressional hearing where 3 people, one an Air Force pilot, another one aerospace head, another one a CIA guy, said that we have alien bodies, and not each of them, but collectively they said we have alien bodies. There's crash sites, many of them in the double digits, and we've reversed engineered technology, blah blah blah. That's never happened. It's never happened. And when Grush said, hey, I can't talk about that in an open hearing, but if we go into a private hearing, I can show you data, and then possibly they'll go into a SCIF and show classified materials, but that's, you gotta think about that. That's pretty open, for the government to admit that. So, and keep in mind about this, Rob, here's one. We used to call them UFOs. Why are we calling them UAPs? Well, UAP is a brand new term, and the government had the chance to brand it. So it means they took it away from the UFO tinfoil hat crowd and made UAP. Same thing, same phenomena. But they called it UAP so that they had control over the narrative instead of the news networks who say every time they do a UFO story, they blow up a green alien, and stick it on their desk. I mean, so they don't do that with UAP, do they? They treat it seriously. So I think that was a successful rebranding of the UFO phenomena.
Mark, stand by. You and I have to take our break at the bottom of the hour. And Exonation, Marc D'Antonio is our special guest. www.SkyTourLive.com or SkyTourLive.org. And Mark is going to be one of the speakers at Contact in the Desert. That is coming up in May. I believe it's May 30th. And if you'd like to contact him, once again, go to SkyTourLive.com or SkyTourLive.org. The X Zone is a place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard. It's a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality, Monday through Friday from 10 p.m. Eastern until midnight. Right here from our studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada on the X Zone Broadcast Network and your hometown radio, Classic 1220, streaming classic1220ca.ca. And once again, welcome our new affiliate, WVEX in Midland, Michigan. That's 105.3 FM. I'll be back on the other side of this very short break with Marc D'Antonio as we continue talking about UFOs, UAPs, photo analysis, and much more. Don't go away. Welcome back, everyone. This is hour number 2, and my guest this hour is Marc D'Antonio. His website's SkyTourLive.com and SkyTourLive.org. Mark, before we went to the break, we had just kind of finished talking about the congressional hearing and David Grush. But when I was watching it, I was under the impression that David Grush did not see any of the evidence himself, that all the information that he was presented to Congress was from other people who had the experiences or had the sighting who had the knowledge. The fact that he's the one who said everything to Congress, does that take anything away from the credibility of the information that he gave to Congress?
I was very critical of that too, Rob. And one of the things that I thought of was, okay, Grush said, as you said, he didn't touch or know any. In fact, he even said, I didn't know anything at all about UFOs until they came to me to discuss this. So that lends credence to my theory that Grush was actually tapped to release this information. It's not like he was a whistleblower per se. A whistleblower does things against the wishes of the authority party, and he wasn't that guy. He was tapped to do it. He was doing what he was told to do. And so this is when you ask that question about, will we see disclosure? You've got to wonder, why would they tap Grush, which is, again, what I really think they did, to do this stuff? Now, he talked to people. Yes, he interviewed people, sure. And he got information, absolutely, from the people that claim they saw these things. Now, not everything that he says is stuff that I necessarily buy into, but I know that if he is speaking behind classified closed doors to people about classified programs and then making it known to us, that's very good. He mentioned only one investigator that's out in the public sector during his talk, and that was when he did his talk on Tucker Carlson. All right, and so clearly he has knowledge from behind the closed doors, from behind that gauntlet of secrecy, and he's been given permission to talk about it to a certain level. That's, I think, why he was so giddy. He was so giddy, and yes, I know he's autistic and he's on the spectrum. He said so, but he was also very giddy, and talking like he could do no wrong, and he couldn't, because he was given the script. He was told what he could say, and then he did his research, being a very, very efficient and good officer, and he did his research and found these things, cleared it all with his bosses, and they said, okay, you can talk about, probably, I'm imagining you can talk about this, and this, but not this, and this. And so he said, okay. And then he released that to Congress and talked about it live. And I thought it was actually very interesting, because it's not the disclosure we all want, yes. Because you want them to roll up with a body and say, yep, look at this body we got. That's right. But in reality, when you say, if there's a body, let me see it, there's a problem, because how did we get that body? The way we got that body is through classified technology. And so when they say, and that's, having the body is not the classified bit. The methodology by which we obtained it is the classified bit. And that's the thing that can't be spoken about in an open session of Congress, you see.
Do you think that other countries around the world, like Russia, China, Japan, Great Britain, Canada, are all facing the same issues when it comes to the UAP scenario, and how they are going to work with it in order to, at one day, release the information to the public?
Well, if you're running a country, do you want to release high-tech technology to the public? No, you want it for yourself. Mm-hmm. So the U.S. is doing what China is doing, what Russia is doing, and that is trying to get as much of this information and much of this technology as they can, so they can reverse engineer it and use it themselves. Russia's doing the same thing. I've actually heard rumors about Russian programs.
Right.
Don't know if they're true. Rumors about Chinese programs. Don't know if they're true. But we all know about the rumors of our own programs, because we're here. We hear stuff because we're within our country. Stuff leaks out. China is notoriously secret,
But if we're looking at trying to discredit one country, for example, if Russia wanted to discredit the United States, all they'd need to do is say, listen, here's a crashed UFO. We've had this for so many years. We know what happened in Roswell. We know what happened at Level End and the other crash sites. Wouldn't that discredit the integrity and the honesty of the United States government with the people of the United States? And wouldn't that be a political gain for Russia over the United States?
No, I don't think so. I think if they said that, they would be legitimizing everything that people here have been saying. And the people here would be saying, see, I knew it. Mm-hmm. I knew that aliens were visiting this planet. I knew this. And then, of course, America would come out and say, well, yes, it has, and here's what we know, too. And it would all come out. So maybe disclosure will come from overseas, Rob. I don't know.
Using the technology that you have at your disposal, do you think that you would be able to discover anything different when it comes to some of the older cases, like, let's see, Kenneth Arnold sighting, or, information or footage from Roswell, New Mexico?
Or the Socorro or Aztec crashes. Yeah. Modern technology is not going to, I don't believe, really help us with past information unless we can get a hold of written documentation. And the person to go to for that is David Marler in Albuquerque, or Rio Rancho. David Marler is probably my good friend and probably the premier historian on UFO cases. And he would know best which documents still have to be deciphered. And maybe there's technology that can do that. I know there is. I actually used some on some of my investigations to de-blur, for instance, photos and documents so they can be read. Mm-hmm. So that's about the limit. But moving forward, Rob, you know what the thing is? I look forward because I think they're still here. I think they're still deep in our oceans. They go where we are not, and we are not deep in our oceans. Nope. I think they're down there. And the technology that I think they use, that I've been lecturing about, is technology that would allow them to be there unimpeded by the weight of the water over their heads. Okay. And they'd be able to shift back and forth, and move around the sky. They don't even have propulsion. How about that? All they do is dimensionally shift, and it's a probable technology that exists within string theory. And string theory has yet to be proven. Michio Kaku would agree with me that string theory is yet to be proven, but it kind of is the only game in town with certain things in the universe. So that said, I believe that once we get a better handle on string theory, then variations of string theory, including this one particular one that I'm talking about and I talk about, is the one that would generate the capability for us to go interstellar in very short order. Now, I'll give you an example. From here to Alpha Centauri is 4.3 light years. Okay? All right. That means light took 4.3 years to get here. That's a huge distance. Okay? That's 25 plus trillion miles. So how do we do that in a short amount of time? Well, we could use the Alcubierre warp drive, which Miguel Alcubierre came up with in 1994. And if we could generate one of those using the huge and vast amounts of energy required to do it, we could get there in 5 days minimally. And say, wow, 5 days, that's incredible. Over the 10,000 years it would normally take us to do that at the fastest speed we can go now. But using this other dimensional shift technology that is living within string theory, well, that would reduce the time to 20 minutes, because the universe is not anymore a discrete set of distance between A and B anymore. It's just A and it's just B. And we skipped the A to B line. We skipped all of that. We just pop out from A and pop in at B. So I know that sounds cryptic, but that is the nature of the technology that I'm discussing here, and I'll be talking about that at Contact as well.
When it comes to reverse engineering, there are those who believe that reverse engineering from UFOs has in fact been accomplished. My question is, if reverse engineering has been accomplished, why are we still using the type of propellants that we're using to get our rockets into space instead of the reversed engineering that comes from UFOs?
Well, the truth is to that, and I think that's actually a very good question, because the answer may not be immediately obvious. I think that we don't use that advanced technology because we can't quite reach it yet. See? Now, we're not quite there. Now, as I said, if we can do this dimensional shift technology, we say, hey, look what we can do. But we can't. We can't generate the particles that would take us into this other dimension that would allow us to do this fast travel routine. It's not wormholes. This is not what people would call the Einstein-Rosen bridge possibility. This is not that at all. It's not using black holes or anything like that. This is a dimensional shift. It's not a warp drive. A warp drive takes you through the same space you're in. You've got to avoid things along the way. This, you just have to avoid things at your destination that you're popping into. And this process is something that even if we reverse engineered it, we would have to generate the reactor that would be able to generate these particles. And that reactor, incidentally, would be a fusion reactor. And Lawrence Livermore created a sustained fusion reaction a couple years ago. That's great. And it wasn't a reaction that gave more energy back than you put in. And that's typically what you want with fusion, like the sun. It fuses hydrogen into helium, right, by pressing everything together. Well, that releases a ton of energy. But we are at the point where we can press things together, but we're putting a lot of energy in to do it. We haven't reached that break-even point yet, or even that post-break-even where we get more energy out than we put in. So, but Lawrence Livermore did manage to get a sustained reaction. That's a milestone. That's a first. And having a sustained reaction is very important. And then once you have a sustained reaction, then the idea of doing it over and over and over again to get more energy out than you put in, that's next. So we're ways from that.
All right, please stand by. Mark, you and I have to take our final break. And Exonation, if you'd like to find out more about Mark, check out SkyTourLive.com or SkyTourLive.org. And, of course, check out the Mutual UFO Network website at www.MUFON.com. Is it com or org? I forget.
Yeah, it's com.
Com, yeah. The X Zone with yours truly, Rob McConnell, my special guest, Marc D'Antonio. We'll both be back as we wrap up this hour and this edition of the X Zone from our broadcast center and studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada. Don't go away.
No use talking when the shadows fall.
Earth changes, you're cracking me up. I'm starting to hear about all sorts of weird stuff. It's the bombs, it's the comets, it's the dark, dark days upon us. So say the folks who all quote Nostradamus. Earth changes, oh prophets of doom. It sounds like disaster is your favorite tune. If it makes you feel better, get it out of your system and tell us about the next big cataclysm. Okay, the poles they will shift and volcanoes will bellow. LA's gonna disappear, New York turn to jello. There'll be tidal waves, earthquakes, fissures and cracks. The earth's gonna be screaming, you can all kiss my exes goodbye, bye, bye. Earth changes, if it's like they said, then there's no use hiding out under your bed. But don't get depressed and run off to the bottle. The earth's trying to tell us it's time to remodel. Earth changes, less greed will be nifty and house up our peace. For a big polar shifty, a whole lot more love and a big dose of patience, coming alive to the joys of creation. Earth changes, and so can we, for all of the changes are in you and me. With so much sweet love, is it really surprising? A new earth is dawning upon the horizon. Earth changes, earth changes, earth changes.
And welcome back, everyone. That was Michael Horn, who is the North American media representative for the Billy Meyer Society, and his song entitled Earth Changes. And we played that a number of times this week and last, because that's our way of trying to celebrate with you, the X-Zone Nation, the changes that have to be made in order to keep this planet alive and we've rejuvenated. And it takes all of us to do it. It's not one person's job. It's not one country's job. We all have to work together in doing this and accomplishing it. So to Michael Horn, thanks, Michael, for allowing us to use that song whenever we wish. My guest this hour is Marc D'Antonio, and check out SkyTourLive.com and SkyTourLive.org. First of all, Marc, always a great pleasure talking to you, and thanks for all you and the rest of the people at MUFON do in trying to put all the puzzle pieces to this big jigsaw puzzle that you guys have been doing for so many years. So thank you from the X-Zone Nation.
Well, thanks, man, and you keep doing what you do, Rob, because you're a blowtorch that gets the word out there. So it's great.
Thank you, sir. In your opinion, what has been the smoking gun when it comes to video or photographs that have been submitted to you that, beyond a shadow of a doubt, this is a legitimate UFO or UAP now?
Well, it's been difficult because 99.8% of all the videos and photos we see are ordinary objects captured in extraordinary ways. But that doesn't mean that there's nothing out there. Mm-hmm. Again, like I told you earlier, all that stands between us is their technology. So we have observations, for instance, of UFOs that seem to shimmer and change color and then vanish from the sky, and that process, I can, as an astronomer, tell you, well, that's called atmospheric scintillation, something near the horizon will do that. But what about if it's high off the horizon? What if it's 30 degrees, 40 degrees up? And then what? You can't call it that anymore on a nice still night. So we have to qualify what people see by examining the conditions under which they saw it. And one of the videos I did see, not recently, I've known about it for years, is one by a guy named Nick Mariano. And Nick Mariano, I think he's passed on, but this is from 1951, I believe. I know that's a long time ago, but this particular footage, and I'll tell you why I'm not going down Tic Tac and Go Fast and Gimbal and that yet, okay? But Nick Mariano's footage is truly unknown because he was with his daughter at a ball field, I forget, a stadium or some kind, and he just happened to pick up his camera and was panning when he caught sight of these objects in the sky. And there were two bright objects moving extremely fast, and you could only see the light from them. You couldn't see anything else, and they were beyond the light towers that were in the stadium that you could really see very clearly. And they just moved right past, swing, and it was a 3-second video. That's all. But to me, that one says true unknown, because we didn't have anything in the sky that could have been at that time in that direction.
Are you getting more UFO reports now that drones are so readily available to anybody?
Oh boy, yeah. I mean, I even have a fleet of them here, and I have one outfitted to be an infrared drone, so I could go looking for lost children and things like that. Okay, and I have one that's outfitted to carry a full-size camera. It's a big hexacopter. They're very useful.
I understand that the prison systems are having their problem with drones as well.
That's right. Drones delivering illicit goods to the prisoners.
What'll GM
why
think
not?
next?
I mean, hey, if you're going to try it, I mean, and look at what's going on in Ukraine, right? The Ukrainians are using kamikaze drones to wipe out, tank battalions, and it's working.
How do you see the advancement of artificial intelligence being used or being abused when it comes to UFO sightings?
Both. It can be used and abused, and it's going to be both. And I know that, I'll give you an example. I get photographs from people, and they show the original photograph where you see this fuzzy dash of black on the image. And then they say, and we put it through an AI program to sharpen it up. And the next image you see is of a actual UFO that's made out of that elongated fuzzy black thing. Now, what I try to point out to people is you're not going to get any more detail out of a photo than was in the original photo. If it's fuzzy, elongated, and black, and you zoom in on it, it's going to be large, fuzzy, elongated, and black. You're not going to be able to find detail in there that's just not there. AI is inventing the detail and putting it in where it thinks it should go. So I get so many photos like that. You're wrong, Mark. You're wrong. Look, this is the detail. You can see the rivets. Do you really think that camera could pick up the rivets from 150, 200 feet away?
And
500 feet away?
And you really think that a UFO would have rivets?
Exactly. And they do this all the time. They use this AI, and every time I see it on Facebook or other social media, I just throw in a little indicator there that just says, a little post that says, you can't get any more detail out of a photo than was there originally, and this is way more detail. It's been fabricated.
I remember all the photos and the videos that came out when people started really using CGI. So it seems that they've leapt from CGI to AI.
Yeah, in fact, the CGI revolution was how I became the chief photo and video analyst for MUFON, because there was a drone, not in the classic sense that we know drones now, but some object moving over Tahoe called the Tahoe drone. That's how it was billed as. And you saw this object moving over this location, and they were aiming up at the camera. Wow, incredible. Looks phenomenal. Yes, but it was all wrong, because to be a photo and video analyst, you've got to be an astronomer. You've got to have extensive photographic knowledge. You got to know how cameras work. You have to understand how the Earth works. You have to understand the atmosphere, all right? And again, let's go to the ocean. You have to understand how the ocean works, how the currents work. Why? To be a photo and video analyst? Because you have to be able to account for all the different types of conditions you may find in a particular image. So when this Tahoe drone, they take a picture of it, they're photographing it, and you can see the bottom nice and clear. And right around the outside of it, you see blue sky. But wait, that would be in deep shadow. So the camera would overexpose the drone so you could see the bottom clearly, and that would make the sky white around it. Little things like that the hoaxers never bothered to even think about. And that's why they were blown out of the water. So that was the end of that.
My last question for you, Mark, is because time's going by really fast, is what is your opinion based on any analysis that you have done on the Phoenix Lights?
Yeah, Lynn Katai is a good friend, and I sat with her for hours and hours and hours, and she showed me all kinds of information. And to date, the Phoenix Lights that people think about is that little video clip of that little strand of lights on a slight angle in the sky. That was actually a flare drop done later, all right? And people have confused that with, the actual Phoenix Lights. The real Phoenix Lights incident, Rob, happened all across Arizona with many, many, many witnesses who saw this object crossing across Arizona. So my opinion is that something did happen, but my finding has been that no one actually caught images of it.
So, if memory serves me correct, the big push was on the Phoenix Lights, the flare drop, and not the mass sighting that was reported all across the state of Arizona. Was this something that was deliberately played down by the media?
You know what? I don't really know the answer to that. I mean, I don't know why the media wouldn't jump on it. Yeah. It makes for good news. It makes for, they can blow up their little plastic aliens and put them on their desk and have fun with it. It would be the kind of thing they would do. So I think that because there were so many people that saw it, that they didn't really know where to go. There were people that did announce and say, hey, we have been seeing these things in our network here on the TV station. We've seen these things all over the state. We've been receiving reports from all over the state, and they have, and they did do that. But the thing that people want to see is physical stuff. They want to see the videos. They want to see pictures. News is built on pictures, photographs, videos.
Yeah.
They're not built on hearsay and witness testimony, because we know as human beings that no matter what we observe, okay, humans are the worst observers. They're not good.
Having been a former police officer, I agree with you 100% on that one. Mark, Mark, the time has come when you and I must say so long. The door is always open for you or anyone in MUFON. Just give me a call. We'll get you guys on as soon as we can. Continued success. Thank you for the great work that you do, and I look forward to the next time you and I meet here in the X Zone.
Yeah, thanks, Rob, and hopefully people can check us out and watch our nightly Universe Live in real-time videos from
we'll do whatever we can.
SkyTour Live.
We'll do whatever we can to promote it, Mark. Take care of yourself,
Thanks,
my friend. And that's it for tonight, Exo Nation. I'll be back tomorrow night at 10 o'clock as once again we cross the time-space continuum to this place that I call the X Zone. It's a place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard Monday through Friday from 10 p.m. until midnight, right here on the X Zone Broadcast Network and your hometown radio, Classic 1220. Streaming at classic1220.ca. So until tomorrow night, when once again we meet, always remember to keep your eyes to the sky and your heart to the light. Good night, everyone.
Girl, closing time. One last call for alcohol, so finish your